My name is Susan Illinois Hinton, or better known as S.E. Hinton. I am a very private person, and I don't like talking about my personal history, but I'm going to share a little with you today about my life. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1948. And my parents were Grady and Lillian Hinton, and I am married and I have a son who graduated from the University of Tulsa. And that's about all I'm going to tell you about my personal life. I just disclose all my life's personal stories and backgrounds, but I will talk about my writing and its inspirational aspects of the 20th century and the effect that it's had on many teenagers and adolescents over the course of time. It's just good stuff. I guess my this started when I really kind of fell in love with writing, and about around grade school. I just loved to read and write, and I like making up my own stories, and I guess this is where I kind of found my inspiration for writing. I attended Will Rogers High School, and that's where I basically found my inspiration for my first and most renowned novel, The Outsiders, in 1967. While in high school, there was rising tensions between two groups, gangs, if you so call them, I guess, in my high school, and I really wanted to capture the truth of these types of ordeals. And at the time of all these things I was experiencing, there was really no sources of novels or books about the struggles that adolescents were experiencing and going through. And so that's why most of all my novels contain the themes of poverty, gangs, violence, sex, drugs, and social division between classes. And all of these topics were considered way too mature for teenagers in the late 60s. And, you know, in most of my books, I just really depict the survival and maturation of older adolescents, male protagonists who are just going through really hard times, and they're always tough on the outside, but they're usually soft on the inside. And they're lower class boys who usually live around Tulsa. In my stories, there's always tough decisions and threatening situations, and I use these in my writing to bring out the realistic effects that it's meant to have. Every one of my books I've lived to some extent, and I believe that The Outsiders captures this the most. I wrote this book and many of my other books with my feelings, and I believe that they're all so popular today because the feelings are universal throughout the course of time. And it's just really interesting how the same problems that teens were going through back when I was a teen and, you know, living my life, then some of the same things are very similar to today's problems with the teenage revolution and everything that's going on now. So, The Outsiders starts with a group of soldiers jumping the main character, Ponyboy Curtis, which fuels the greasers in preparing for their big fight with the Socs. With Ponyboy's mother and father gone, he turns to his two brothers and their gang of friends for a sense of true family. But when one of the gang members kills a Soc in self-defense, it leads to a chain of events unrolling, turning the tide of the outcome on how they live their lives. I went under the name S.E. Hinton because of gender views, and I wanted my work to not be judged on if I was male or female, and especially for this book, with my publisher and everything. He's like, yeah, that's a good idea, and I'm like, okay. And so that's where I got the name S.E. Hinton, but because of The Outsiders. My second book, that one was then This Is Now, published in 1971, is a story that takes on the insight into the lives of two brothers who are growing apart from each other because of girls, responsibility, and drugs. And this book includes some of the main, not the main characters, some of the characters from The Outsiders. And so it's just kind of like it's not really a sequel, but it's just a different kind of story about different things in the same place. And my third book, Rumblefish, was published in 1975, and it's about a boy named Rusty James and his iconic brother, the motorcycle boy. And this book really captures the great gang era and its fallout with former gang leader, the motorcycle boy, and his opposition. He said that gangs died when the drugs came into the picture. And he tries to convince his brother that the gang days are over in this novel. And it really captures like inner city life and just how it really captures honestly the 70s, like the late 70s in general, for the drug culture and the adolescence with the drugs and the gangs especially, because it was a big old fallout and there was just no more. It was that peace, love, and happiness revolution from the 60s, from late 60, like 68. It was carrying over, and it was just by 75 the gangs were basically gone because the hippie movement was on, and gangs weren't a thing no more. And it's kind of iconic and ironic as well, as because for the teenage adolescents who were rebellious and so far from their parents' views of the 50s and 60s, in the late 60s and early 70s, it turns out that the teenagers then who were rebellious become rebellious adults, and you get formations like the Black Panther Party and the hippie movement and all sorts of just crazy things, and all those drug houses and everything like that. And it's all because of just the time periods unrolling and folding into each other. And this book, it kind of captures the start of that. And really, really good book. Really good book. It's the rumblefish. What a rumblefish is those betta fish that you get for like $1 in those cups and they die like after 5 days? That's what a rumblefish is. Because if you put two males in the same tank, they fight to the death. And it's kind of cool to watch sometimes. My fourth book was Tex, and that was published in 1979. This book captures the hardships of growing up with your mother absent and your father in and out of the house. Kind of like Roy. It apprehends the cons of drugs and drug dealings and reflects the drug era again of the 70s. And then during the 80s, I decided that my family was more important than my writing career. And I kind of took a break for about a decade. And a lot of people didn't really like that. And I'm really good at kind of hiding myself, because I basically just kind of disappear on my ranch and don't really do anything. I mean, out here in Absaraka, it's pretty easy. There's only like 5 people here, so they're not really going to find me out here in Tulsa, Absaraka, Oklahoma, North Dakota. So, during my break in the 80s, I did write one book, and that was my last book of the type of stories I was writing. And this book was more of like kind of like text, just kind of out in the country, and more about not so much drugs in this one, but just different self-reflection, different problems with life and how to deal with them. And this book was called Taming the Star Runner. It came out in 1988. It takes a tough kid who moves into the country. That novel came out. I took another break from 88 to 95 because of my son, and he was just growing up and everything, and I was young and I didn't want to miss it. So, but I did write 2 books for him, kind of, and based on him, and they're both were published in 1995. The first one was called Big David, Little David, and the second one was called The Puppy Sister, and they're both children's novels, and they did okay. Not as much as my other books, but you just gotta roll, And I took another break till about 2004, and Hawks Harbor came out. It was published in 2004, and it was an adult story for 18 plus, 17 plus readers. Pretty gruesome. Dealt with a lot of mystery, and I think it had a little sexual part in there as well, and which was kind of different. Definitely a big switch from my children's book. And then in 2007 I came out with another adult novel called Some of Tim's Stories, and it was just, another adult story, just trying to make that different shift in my work. Stories about Tim, good, just a good, older read. Didn't really do as well. Especially none of my books that I've recently made from 95 up, which was only like 4, didn't really do as well as the ones that really captured the time period that I lived in and expressed so fluently, just every day, and I express it in my novels, and that's why they sold. They're just real. And, nothing beats the classics. Many of my classic novels were also films that starred Matt Dillon, C. Thomas Howell, Patrick Swayze, Emilio Estevez, Ralph Macchio, and Tom Cruise. And those movies were The Outsiders, That Was Then, This Is Now, Rumblefish, and Tex. And I've received numerous awards, and some of my really big awards I received were the New York Herald Tribune and the Chicago Tribune Book World Honor Book, and numerous others for best books for young adult and teenage genres. And now I just spend my days on my ranch, and I go to the college in Tulsa, and I just take courses for no credit, because I just, just learning. You gotta learn. And I just kind of do whatever I want at my house. I love horses and being in the country, and this shows in books such as Tex and The Star Runner. And yeah, that's really about it.
When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I had only 2 things on my mind: Paul Newman and a ride home.